coffee shop fills with couples on Sunday morning. You sit alone with a book and black coffee. 3 women glance over, then return to their phones. No one approaches, and you feel no pull to change that. Jung understood that individuation requires withdrawal before it requires connection. The man who has not integrated his shadow will seek completion in another. He will mistake romantic merger for psychological wholeness. Smart men are recognizing that distinction earlier than previous generations did. The attention economy has shifted the cost-benefit analysis of dating dynamics. A single text thread can demand hours of emotional labor for uncertain return. You calculate the opportunity cost and realize your mission advances faster alone. The spreadsheet in your mind shows a deficit where passion used to cloud judgment. The mirror reflects what you have become in solitude. Competence in your craft, clarity in your purpose, sovereignty over your calendar. Partnership once seemed like the natural next achievement. Now it looks like a negotiation where you hold most of the losing cards. Modern dating operates on principles that penalize masculine investment early. The man who commits first, responds fastest, and reveals interests soon loses leverage. You learned this through pattern recognition. 4. Bitterness. The data across a dozen interactions told a story you could no longer ignore. Jung called the anima the inner feminine image carried in the male psyche. When that image is unintegrated, you project it outward and worship the projection. Smart men have begun the work of integration and discovered something unexpected. The desperate need for a woman's presence dissolves when you reclaim that inner fragment. She presents her list of requirements in the first 3 conversations. Height, income, travel history, emotional availability on her timeline. You listen and notice that curiosity about your inner world never surfaces. The transaction is clear. She is selecting, and you are being auditioned for a role. The forge that shapes a man operates best in isolation. Distractions soften the heat, and relationships are the most seductive distraction available. You have watched peers abandon promising trajectories for partnerships that demanded their diminishment. The thesis becomes simple. Stay single until the work is complete, or risk never completing it. Boundaries are easier to establish when no one is testing them. The single man controls his time, his space, and his attention without negotiation. He does not explain why he needs 3 hours alone on Saturday. The absence of that friction allows focus to sharpen into something rare. The throne you are building does not require her approval to be legitimate. Previous generations built the throne to attract a queen. You are building it because the act of building is the point. If she arrives later and respects what you have made, the dynamic shifts entirely. Dating dynamics reward scarcity, but scarcity cannot be performed convincingly long-term. The only authentic scarcity comes from a life so full that partnership is optional. Smart men are creating that fullness deliberately, not as strategy but as architecture. The side effect is that they stop chasing what they no longer need to feel whole. Jung described the process of becoming conscious as painful and often isolating. You cannot do shadow work in the presence of someone whose validation you crave. The parts of yourself you have disowned will remain hidden if exposure risks rejection. Solitude removes that risk and allows you to face what you have been avoiding. She texts at 11 at night asking what you are doing. You are reading, lifting, or working on a project that might change your trajectory. The interruption costs 30 minutes of deep focus to recover from. You begin to see these interruptions as taxes on your potential, not invitations to connection. The storm of modern courtship is constant, low-grade, and exhausting. Every app is a slot machine dispensing intermittent rewards and frequent disappointment. Smart men are walking away from the casino and investing those hours elsewhere. 3 years of compounding focus beats 3 years of swiping in every measurable domain. Masculine sovereignty means you define success on your terms, not hers or society's. If marriage and children do not align with the life you are designing, you do not apologize. Previous generations felt the weight of expectation and complied out of duty. You feel the same weight and choose to set it down because the cost is too high. The mirror shows you a man who is no longer willing to negotiate his core priorities. Partnership used to sit at the top of that list by default. Now it occupies a conditional space, welcome if aligned, dismissed if corrosive. The shift is not cynicism, It is clarity born from watching the incentives play out. Response windows in modern dating have become a language of power, not connection. She takes 6 hours, you take 6 minutes, and the hierarchy is established instantly. Smart men have stopped playing a game where the rules reward their disadvantage. They have reclaimed their time and directed it toward endeavors that do not require decoding. Jung warned that the unlived life manifests as neurosis and projection. The man who sacrifices his potential for a relationship he is not ready for will resent her. That resentment will poison the bond and prove the sacrifice was for nothing. Smart men are choosing to live life first and risk loneliness over resentment. The chess match of early dating has become too transparent to ignore. Every move is calculated, every message timed, every response measured for investment level. You realize you are spending cognitive resources on a strategy that could build something real. The game stops being worth the prize when the prize is just access to more games. She lists her boundaries in paragraph form on the second date. You notice that curiosity about your boundaries never enters the conversation. The dynamic is assumed. You adjust to her needs, and she evaluates your flexibility. Smart men are declining the audition and walking away before the script is finalized. The forge requires isolation because mastery requires repetition without distraction. You have seen what happens when a man divides his attention between craft and courtship. Both suffer, and the relationship becomes the excuse for why the craft never matured. Staying single removes the excuse and forces you to confront your own discipline. Individuation is the process Jung described as becoming who you actually are beneath social conditioning. That process is not romantic, and it does not reward the presence of a witness. You must betray the image others hold of you to discover the self underneath. Smart men are choosing that betrayal over the comfort of being seen as acceptable. The throne is not a metaphor for dominance, it is a metaphor for self-possession. The man who sits on his own throne does not need external validation to feel real. Relationships become collaborative, but completive, when both people occupy their own throne. But most women are not building thrones. They are evaluating yours to see if it is large enough. Dating dynamics have shifted because the incentive structures have shifted. Marriage once offered men stability, legacy, and social status in exchange for provision. Now it offers legal risk, financial exposure, and a coin flip chance of dissolution. Smart men are running the numbers and opting out of a contract that no longer protects them. The mirror reflects a hard truth that no one wants to say aloud. Men are not staying single because they cannot find women. They are staying single because they can. Financial independence, social autonomy, and sexual access no longer require lifelong commitment. The leverage that women once held through scarcity has dissolved in the attention economy. She asks why you are still single, as though it is a diagnosis requiring explanation. You could explain the economic calculus, the mission focus, the individuation work. Instead, you smile and say you have not found the right fit. The real answer is that you have stopped looking because the search became a distraction. Jung understood that the psyche seeks balance, and imbalance creates suffering. The man who ties his emotional stability to a woman's variable presence will suffer constantly. Smart men are internalizing that stability and discovering that solitude is not the same as loneliness. Loneliness is the ache for connection. Solitude is the peace that comes from integration. The storm will come: cultural pressure, family questions, friends pairing off around you. You will be asked what is wrong, why you are not trying, when you will settle down. Each question assumes that partnership is the default and your refusal is deviation. Smart men are refusing the premise and redefining what a well-lived life contains. Boundaries in relationships require constant enforcement, and enforcement requires energy. That energy could be directed toward the work that will define your next decade. You are not avoiding responsibility, you are allocating responsibility toward higher leverage outcomes. It applies pressure, and the metal either transforms or it breaks. Your solitude is that forge, and you are both the metal and the smith. The question is whether you will use this time to become something rare or squander it seeking comfort. Masculine sovereignty is not a destination. It is a practice renewed each morning. The single man practices it without interference, without compromise, without explanation. He wakes to his own schedule, pursues his own goals, and answers to no one but himself. That autonomy is not loneliness. It is the soil where deep work takes root. She will tell you that your standards are too high, your focus too narrow. What she means is that your priorities do not include accommodating her expectations. Smart men are hearing that criticism and recognizing it as confirmation, not correction. If your standards exclude chaos, distraction, and misalignment, they are exactly where they should be. The mirror does not flatter, and it does not apologize for what it shows. You see a man who has chosen a harder path in exchange for a clearer one. The loneliness is real some nights, but so is the progress you can measure in solitude. The trade-off becomes obvious when you watch peers stall under the weight of relationships they cannot afford. Response windows have taught you that availability is not kindness, it is weakness in disguise. The woman who makes you wait 3 days while you respond in 3 minutes has already won. Smart men have stopped playing that game by removing themselves from the board entirely. The absence is not strategy, it is self-respect that no longer tolerates disrespect. Jung spoke of the integration of opposites as the key to psychological wholeness. The masculine and feminine within must be reconciled before they can be expressed outwardly. You cannot reconcile those forces while desperately clinging to a woman who represents the projection. Smart men are doing the inner work first and discovering that the outer relationship becomes optional. The chess match ends when you stop moving pieces and focus on building your position. Every turn spent reacting to her moves is a turn not spent advancing your strategy. You have decided to play a different game entirely, one where the opponent is yesterday's version of yourself. That game rewards consistent effort, and the scoreboard does not lie. She will accuse you of being afraid of intimacy, of commitment, of vulnerability. What you are actually afraid of is committing to the wrong person for the wrong reasons. Smart men have learned that patience is not fear. It is wisdom dressed in restraint. The right person at the wrong time is still the wrong decision. The forge has no sympathy for the metal that complains about the heat. It continues the process because the process is what creates value. Your willingness to endure solitude while others couple up is what separates you. The separation is not superiority. It is simply a different allocation of finite years. Individuation requires that you face the parts of yourself you have been performing around. The nice guy routine, the perpetual availability, the fear of disappointing her. All masks. You cannot remove the mask in her presence because her presence is why you wear it. Smart men are removing it alone and learning to tolerate what they find underneath. The throne you are building will outlast any relationship that disrupts its construction. Previous generations built the throne for her and wondered why it felt hollow. You are building it for the work. And if she fits into that architecture, she is welcome. But the architecture does not bend to accommodate her if bending compromises the integrity. Dating dynamics will not change because a few men opt out. They will change because many do. Market responds to supply, and smart men are withdrawing supply from a rigged system. She can list her requirements and expect compliance, but only if men continue to audition. When the auditions stop, the requirements become negotiable and the leverage shifts. The mirror will show you a different man in 2 years if you hold the line now. Muscles built, skills sharpened, mission clarified, peace internalized. The cost is the cultural narrative that insists you are incomplete without her. Smart men are paying that cost and discovering that completeness was always an inside job. She will not understand your decision, and you do not owe her an explanation. The work you are doing in solitude does not translate into language she values. Her metrics are social proof, relationship status, and emotional availability on demand. Your metrics are depth, mastery, and sovereignty. The conversation is already over. Jung knew that the process of becoming whole is not supported by the collective. The collective wants you coupled, producing, and perpetuating the system. Your refusal to comply is not rebellion. It is alignment with a deeper archetype. Smart men are remembering the archetype and letting it guide them through the cultural noise. The storm of judgment will pass, and you will still be standing in the center of your purpose. The couples who judged you will have their own reckonings when the relationships fracture. You will have spent those same years becoming someone who does not fracture under pressure. The difference will be undeniable, and no explanation will be necessary. Boundaries are not built to keep people out. They are built to keep people out. They are built to protect what you are creating inside. The single man has a perimeter that holds because no one is asking him to weaken it. Smart men are fortifying that perimeter and trusting that the right person will respect it, not demand its collapse. Until that person appears, the work continues, and the solitude deepens into something powerful.